feel having breakfast.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so as we did last week, let's start with a couple of minutes. It's just observing our breath so we can calm the mind down. Okay. So when you're observing your breath, just breathe normally. Don't force your breath. And let whatever your breathing pattern is be what it is. But know that your breathing pattern can often change, especially depending on your mood and what's going on in your mind. So be aware of that too if it does change. So put your attention either on the belly and be aware of the rise and fall of your abdomen as you inhale and exhale, or put your attention on the upper lip and there be aware of the sensation of the breath as it enters and leaves. And let's generate our motivation. And think that we will listen attentively and then afterwards reflect on the teachings so that we can progress on the path to Buddhahood by subduing our faults and the afflictions that afflict us, and by developing our good qualities and our talents. And to do all this so that we can make a positive contribution to society in general, and in the long term to become fully awakened beings that can be of the greatest benefit to others. So what we're doing today is one drop in the bucket, but every drop is very important. So contemplate that, let that be our motivation. And then slowly come out of your meditation. And excuse me for 1 minute.
In the meantime, Venerable Chodron has requested all to turn on their videos if possible. That would be great. She would very much appreciate that, to be able to see people's faces and interact with the audience. So if you can, please turn on your video. Thank you.
Oh, she didn't have this one. Okay. Okay, so 1 more minute. Oops. Gotta put in my hearing aids. You know, this is what aging does to you. You need glasses, you need hearing aids. Okay. Okay, so a couple of you wrote in questions. Can you hear me okay now? Yeah, okay. So a couple of people wrote in questions, so I'll start out with those. The first question was, should self-compassion be placed at a higher priority than compassion for others? If yes, are there any exceptions? I don't see it as a binary thing of either there's self-compassion or compassion for others, and one goes first and one goes second. You know, I see the two as mutually, they happen at the same time. Yeah, that they aren't a choice that you make between one and the other. And the reason I think this is many years ago, many years ago, actually, there was a Mind and Life conference in Dharamsala, and some of the scientists were talking about self-esteem and how they had low self-esteem. And His Holiness Dalai Lama was very perplexed by this. You know, you people have been so successful. How can you, you know, have so much self-criticism and so little confidence in yourself? He was very puzzled by that. So we had some discussion about it. And then afterwards, when I heard him giving public talks in other places, he would emphasize compassion for others again and again and again, as he always does. But this time there was a little bit that was new, which was when you have compassion for others, it helps you with your own self-esteem difficulties. So it made me really think, you know, why is His Holiness saying, you know, stressing compassion for others as a way for us to feel better about ourselves? And, you know, because at first I had this binary thing, oh, it's either compassion for myself or compassion for others. And, if I have one, I can't have the other. And then I realized what he was doing was saying, when you cultivate compassion for other people, when it's sincere compassion, you are not following your self-centered thought. Because we can't follow our self-centered thought and at the same time, cherish others and have compassion for them, because those two things don't fit in the same mind stream. And I began to see that one of the reasons we don't have confidence in ourselves is because we are so self-critical. And we are so self-critical because we pay obsessive attention to ourselves, and we're very judgmental of ourselves. And we see the whole world as revolving around me. So everything that happens, we filter in the context of how does it affect me? And of course, when we do that, then we're comparing ourselves with others. We're comparing ourselves with how we think things should be. We're lost. We're thinking in an unreasonable way that, I am the most important person in the world. And that makes us so super sensitive to everything that happens to ourselves. Which feeds the lack of self-compassion and so on. So what he's saying is, when you turn your mind and you have compassion for others, then there's no space in your mind for this self-obsession to go round and around about what about me, and I don't like myself, and I'm so self-critical, and I'm so bad, and I lose out on everything, and everybody has a better opportunity than me, and da, 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 da. There's no chance to think about that when we're paying attention with our heart to other people's experience, okay? So, the conclusion from that is, when you shift your attention from self to others, and have compassion for others, it also helps you feel better about yourself, because you are no longer having that obsessive concern with me and how everything affects me and how do I feel and is it fair to me, and all that way of thinking that actually causes us a lot of distress. Okay? So this may sound strange to you, but really look at your mind and observe what you're thinking all day, and how much of that thinking is revolving around me and all sorts of petty things that aren't really important that I'm making a big deal out of. And watch how much you compare yourself to others and then feel that the world is unfair to you. Okay. So all of this is the self-centered thought, which, according to the Buddha, is one of our greatest enemies that keeps us trapped. So developing compassion for others shifts that attention. Okay. And an example I have of that, because I do prison work in the US, and a lot of the reading I do involves the experience of people who are incarcerated. And I especially have a soft spot for juveniles who are, young people who are going down the wrong path because they don't have a good education or an opportunity for good education. And their family structure, they don't have adults that can take care of them nearby. So I was reading it was a report, I guess, about a juvenile facility with teenagers who had acted out in society. So it's called a facility. It's actually a juvenile prison, but you can't imprison youth in America, so they call it by another name, but it's a similar kind of thing. So they took these kids who were really rough kids living on the street, and they took them to a facility for people who, you know, who couldn't function physically in the way that other people usually did. They, you know, were in wheelchairs, or they were in crutches or whatever, or they were quite ill. And they had the kids, these teenagers, take the people into the park, you know, in their wheelchairs, and take them around, pushing the wheelchair around, looking at the flowers, talking, you know, to the people who were in the wheelchair, and just, you know, providing some other landscape and another experience for these people who were usually confined in a care facility, you know. And, you know, it helped the people who were ill or injured, but it had a dramatic effect on the young people, because their attention when they were doing this was on the people who they were helping. And by helping other people, these kids began to see, oh, I can do something for others. You know, I have some ability to affect others in a positive way. I can connect with other people. I have something to give. And that this was something really remarkable for these kids that helped them have some self-compassion and help boost their confidence. You know? So I thought that was really quite interesting. And, you know, it reminds me of something. I don't know if this comes from Mother Teresa or not, but I heard it, you know, when I need love, may I love somebody else. In other words, instead of looking, I want, I need, me, is to give whatever it is that you want in whatever way you can. And when you do that, it comes back to you. Yeah. And it may come back to you in a way that you're not expecting, or that it may take you a while to notice, but it's there. Okay. So that's why I don't see, you know, is self-compassion more important than other compassion for others? They really go together, I think. Okay. And like I said, one of the biggest enemies is this tendency we have to compare ourselves to others and then come out on the losing end. I'm not as good as others. They have better opportunities. You know, I'm left out. Something's wrong with me. That whole way of thinking, first of all, it is not true. Yeah, if we look at that kind of self-talk, it is not true. Yeah, we're actually telling ourselves a bunch of lies. And it's also, you know, very lopsided, because there's how many billions of people in this world, and we're just focused on the experience of one who just happens to be me. You know, that's not balanced. Okay. So yes, we need compassion for ourselves, but compassion for ourselves is not self-indulgence. And it is not, oh, poor me, this is wrong and that's wrong and nothing's right in my life. And so I have compassion for myself. And I'm going to go to the, you know, to the mall and buy myself a present, or I'm going to overeat because I have compassion for myself. No, none of that helps you. Yeah. So what really, I think, gives us a sense of compassion for ourselves is when we realize that we can connect with other people and that what we do matters, that we have an ability to affect others in a positive way, and that it isn't that difficult. You know, we start small, but as we start small, then we can grow into it. And it's quite amazing how that happens. Okay, so that was kind of a long answer to a short question. I'll go on to the next question. Oh, okay. So this is based from what I was talking on last week when I talked about acting according to our values and our principles. So somebody is saying, is it possible that the value system can make a person closed off to new experiences? For example, the extremists or nationalists who have their own values, but they are closed to inclusiveness. How do we be objective in such scenarios? And also, how can we keep testing our value system and not be limited to the experiences we have in life? So this is a very good question. So for the first one was a very good question too. When I'm talking about our value system, I'm not talking about our political opinions. I'm talking about our sense of ethics. Yeah. And so, and having a proper sense of ethics that are based on what His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, calls secular ethics. In other words, ethical principles that are kind of shared universally amongst all people in all religions and even people with no religion. Okay. And so everybody learns, don't kill others, don't harm others physically. Yeah. So we learn that. Then, of course, we make all sorts of exceptions, but the exceptions are the political part of it. Okay. The don't take life is the actual value. Yeah. And the don't take what isn't freely given to you. Yeah. Be considerate of other people. Tell the truth. Don't speak harshly behind other people's backs. Don't gossip and things like that. So all these are values that are taught in all the religions, and people who don't have any religion have these same values. Okay, so somebody who's a nationalist or an extremist, their beliefs are political beliefs. They are not virtuous values. Okay, so this mind that is always saying, well, I like everybody who looks like me, or I like everybody who is in my social economic class. I like everybody who comes from my caste. I like everybody who is of my religion, or I like everybody from my country, but everybody else, forget about, they don't really matter. They're the enemy. Okay. And you can see that so clearly. I mean, just today, how Putin spoke when he annexed these 4 areas in Russia, and he made this whole big thing about now Russia is standing up to the West and their Satan values, and he did it as a big nationalistic kind of thing. That's not the kind of values I'm talking about, because what he's doing is going to lead to more violence. Yeah. And we have enough violence in this world, as far as I'm concerned. We have too much violence in this world. Yeah. And violence does not solve anything. Yeah, I don't care what country it is, my country, somebody else's country. You can be violent and make people do what you want them to do out of fear, but that doesn't solve the problem, because when people are unhappy, yeah, then you live with unhappy people. Yeah, so people who are nationalistic, who are racist, who discriminate against other people, they are actually creating more problems for themselves, because they're living in a society with those people who are unhappy because they're not being treated fairly. Okay. And when you live in a society with people who are unhappy, they let you know that they're unhappy, and it adversely affects your own life. So, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says, if you care about yourself and you want to look out for your own welfare, the best way to do that is to take care of others. We go, what do you mean? No, best way to help me is to take care of me and fight off my enemies, because I don't like all these people. But then you wind up with a lot of enemies. Yeah. Do you like living surrounded by enemies? Nobody likes that. Okay. When we help the people around us, when we have an inclusive attitude and a kind attitude towards them, yeah, when we wish them well, then we will live in a society where people are more harmonious. And, don't we want to live in that kind of society? All of our countries have experienced so much violence and discord, and it hasn't solved anything. Yeah. So I'm not talking about capitulating, and just letting people walk all over you. I'm not talking about that. We can state our needs, we can negotiate with people, but we do it with a mind that wants to listen to others, with a mind that sees that we're negotiating with other people who have feelings just like us, and they want happiness as much as we do, and they don't want suffering as much as we don't want suffering. Yeah. So there's the model of when you have a problem, don't see it as, here's the negotiating table. I'm on one side of the table, the other people are on the other side of the table, and I'm just working for my side against them because they're the enemy, they're danger. No, you see it as, here's the table, and both of us are sitting on the same side looking at the problem together. So when we look at the problem together, yeah, then we can share ideas. We listen to what the other person is saying. And very often, just listening to somebody else's needs, acknowledging that they're human beings with feelings and needs, that already helps calm the situation. Okay. And like I said, when we live in a society where everybody feels valued and everybody feels respected, then, we get along better. Yeah. So then somebody's going to say, yes, but these people, they do, da, 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 da. Oh, I have to stop them. Yeah. So going back to the example of what's happening in Ukraine, Putin is kind of threatening nuclear weapons now. Okay, so let's say he drops some nuclear weapons, small ones on Ukraine, or maybe he sends some to my country. Is that going to solve anything? What's going to happen? Yeah. Then other people are going to fight harder, and there's going to be more violence and more conflict. Okay, so that we have to find a way to get along with each other, because we share this planet, we share resources. And if we want to be happy, we have to really value the people that we live with. Okay. So the second part of this question was, how can we keep testing our value system and not be limited to the experiences that we have in life? Okay, so one of the things that I enjoy a lot is meeting people who are different from me. Yeah, I've traveled a lot. I've had the fortune to be able to do that. And I first began traveling after I graduated from university, because I wanted to learn from living people instead of reading about people in books. Yeah, when you read about people in books, you're reading about somebody else's idea of these people and what happened. When you go out and you meet people from different cultures, from different religions, different ideas, then you can hear from them directly about, why they think what they think and why they value what they value. And that is so educational, even if you don't agree with it. Yeah, you don't have to agree with people, but you can respect them and you can have a dialogue. Yeah, and that breaks down barriers. And for us, it opens our mind. And the big thing it opens our mind to is this thing that the Buddha taught, which is everybody wants happiness and nobody wants suffering. And we are all exactly equal in that respect. There's no difference amongst us. And there's no reason why one person should have suffering and the other, why one person should have happiness and not others. Okay, we're in this together. So I think that this whole thing, how can we keep testing our value system? Learn, meet other people who are different from you. And it's very fascinating. I'll give you an example. Okay, I somehow have the karma on long transoceanic flights to be seated in a plane next to somebody who is a born-again Christian. Okay, this has happened repeatedly in my travels. Okay, now if you've ever sat next to a born-again Christian on a long flight, they are, and even on a short flight, even on hardly anything, they will try and convert you. Yeah. So one flight, I was sitting next to this man who was telling me that out of compassion, he he wants to tell me that my next rebirth is going to be in hell because I don't accept Jesus. Yeah. And I said to him, in this way of thinking, to me, it's so much like a football team or a soccer team. You root for your team, and then threaten the other people. So he's telling me I'm going to go to hell because I don't believe in Jesus. So I don't believe that. And, and so I said to him, I thought when you talk about God, that God is very compassionate. Why would he send me to hell when, as a Buddhist, I practice ethical discipline similar to what he taught? I avoid killing and stealing, unwise and unkind sexual behavior. I don't lie. I do my best not to talk behind other people's back or be divisive in my speech. I'm not always perfect, but I'm trying. And I said, if there's somebody like that who's doing like that, why would God send them to hell? God's supposed to be compassionate. So this kind of made him stop and think a little bit. Yeah. And it was quite interesting because I wasn't mad. I spoke to him in a very nice tone of voice. I was respectful of his beliefs. I said, we have the same ethical standards in that way, and I respect you for having that. And I hope you will respect me for having the same ethical beliefs. So, okay. So at the end of the flight, when we stood up to get our luggage, he turned to me and he said, "Oh, perhaps I was a little bit too forceful in what I said." So it was a learning experience for him, to realize that it's important for him to respect other people. Yeah. Even if they don't believe, take Jesus as their savior, that he has to look beyond that into how a person is living. Okay, so this whole thing of have the dialogue with people. Don't try to convince them of your way. Okay, I've learned this a long time ago. Do not argue about politics. The other person does not change. Do not argue about religion. It does not influence anybody else in a positive way. It just makes people more entrenched in their own view. Okay. It really doesn't work. But if you listen to them with respect, you may not agree. In fact, you may really disagree, but you're establishing a personal relationship by listening with respect to somebody else. Yeah. And that makes that other person think, because they may have been told by their leaders that people like you are, horrible people who want to destroy the country and are extremists and, the liberal elite, or, whatever thing, you're the racist people. They've heard that. But then when they're meeting somebody from the other side, who happens to be a kind human being, who listens to them and asks questions because we really want to learn, not because we want to judge, not because we want to convince them of something else. That process of how we relate to them changes their mind. And it makes them see that, oh, not everybody who their leaders are telling them is evil. Not everybody from that side is evil. Here's a nice human being who I can sit down and have a cup of tea with. They aren't the enemy. Okay, so that brings much more a feeling of harmony than when we argue with people, because arguing, it doesn't change anything. Yeah. And not only about politics and religion, but if you have children and you don't agree, as your children are growing up with some of their decisions, if you're a parent and you put your hands on your hip and you give your child that look of, you cannot do this, this is horrible, this is an embarrassment to our family, you cannot go out of the house, no, and you punish them. Okay, so the child may do what you want. I'm talking about teenagers and young adults. They may do what you want simply because they're afraid, but have you won their heart? Yeah. When they have the freedom to do what they want, are they going to still follow what you want? Are you creating a loving family, or are you pushing people away because then your kids feel, oh, my parents don't really care about me as a person. They just care about how I look in society, or they care about themselves having power over me. So here, what's really important is to explain your viewpoint to your child and ask what their viewpoint is. And ask them to explain why they are doing what they're doing or why they want to do what a certain thing is, you know. Because if you're interested in what they think, yeah, then they automatically feel included in the family and they feel valued and respected. Okay. After you listen to what they think, then explain what you think, you know, your perspective. Yeah. But do it in a calm voice, and you're not trying to convince them. You're just sharing. Okay. See it as a sharing, because if you share in that way, then your child feels that they can come to you for advice. If every time you discuss some touchy subject with your child, you don't explain your own view, you don't listen to their view, and you just become like an army drill sergeant. Do this, don't do that. You know, are they going to come to you when they have problems for advice? No. Yeah, because they don't feel understood and, you know, valued in that way. Okay. And so this is all coming back to what His Holiness said about, if you want to take care of yourself, take care of others, you know, because it brings that kind of communication and connection that we all value. Okay, so, I spent almost the whole time talking about the questions. Now I should, this is what Lama Zopa does all the time, except she talks about the motivation, and then he gets to the topic at the very end. So I guess I'll get to the assigned topic now. Okay, we still have a few minutes left. Yeah. So the topic is transforming intellectual knowledge into compassionate action. So we talked a bit about that last time, you know, when I gave the illustration of the mind and awareness text that is talking about different mental states and then how to apply that to your mind. And I gave the example about rebirth and how, you know, understanding rebirth, it enables us to understand some things about our own life, you know, that the idea of rebirth is for me anyway, it really helped understand my life and give me a lot of space. And it helped me understand that things come about through causes and conditions. Okay, so let me back up and explain how those things are related. Yeah, if, you know, so last time I gave you the example, remember, of the lady I met who heard my talk about rebirth and then came and said to me, oh, now I understand my son. And, you know, nobody in our family is musical, but he knows all these musical, you know, pieces and what they are. And, oh, now I understand it's because of his previous rebirth and imprints in his previous rebirth. So, you know, that was a big thing for her to really understand her son. So for me, it was, you know, I kind of wondered what's the as I was growing up, what's the purpose of my life, and why was I born who I was? Why was I born in this family? Because in the way of thinking, I'm quite different from my other family members. Okay, and so I want to, you know, geez, it's very interesting. How did I wind up in this family who thinks in a certain way that I don't think at all? I think in quite a different way. And it was always puzzling to me. But when I learned about rebirth, it was like, okay, now I understand more about the purpose of my life. Yeah? Because if I have a future life, and if it's possible to escape from this round of rebirth, then using my life to create the causes for that is something really worthwhile. And if I can use my life to gain knowledge and abilities and compassion and other qualities that I can use to benefit others and hopefully lead them out of the cycle of rebirth, then my life is even more valuable. Because this for me was like, oh, this is meaningful in my life, because I grew up in a family that that saw success as having the American dream. Okay, in other words, having a good life, having a good career, earning a lot of money, having a nice house, having children who you know, you give, who you want to be everything that you aren't, you know, and have everything you didn't have. You know, so if I came from a family that's quite materialistic, but that was never my way. Okay, so I began to see, oh, okay, I was born according to my karma, according to different causes and conditions. Yeah, different things that I thought, different things that I acted, that were actions I did in many previous lives. And so I have all those conditioning factors from previous lives that made me born in this family, and that are, you know, kind of helping they lie behind to some extent the way I think that is different from my family. And it made me also think, okay, my family members had their own karma that they came into this life with, and that influenced their life experiences and what they experienced. And so I began to think about how my parents were raised and what was going on in the world when they were kids. And so my parents were children of immigrants who came over to America. They were impoverished. My parents grew up in the middle of the Great Depression in the 20s. You know, they were very, very poor. Oh, it makes sense that they see material and consumerism as success, because their families never had that. They didn't have that, you know, and so they wanted a good life, and that was what was important to them. Oh, that makes sense now why they think the way they think. Okay. You know, they didn't have the time to think about what's the purpose of my life. You know, when you're living in the middle of a chaotic society, you know, which the Depression was, and certainly World War II was, or the partition in India, you know, when people are living in that kind of chaos, they have no time to think about what's the purpose of my life. What are my spiritual values? They're just trying to stay alive. Okay, so now I can accept my parents for the way they are, because I see that they had different conditioning than I did from previous lives and also from this life. You know, I was conditioned. I had my previous life conditioning, but this life, I didn't grow up during the Depression. I didn't grow up during World War II. Okay. I grew up during the Vietnam War. And during the Vietnam War, the whole social climate that everybody, well, not everybody, but the young people were asking, why are we fighting this war? It doesn't make any sense to go to Vietnam and kill other people who haven't done anything to us to harm us. And why are we going there and killing? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And so I grew up in that environment. And so, of course, I grew up with a very pacifistic attitude, and I had the time and space because the family by that time was middle class. I had the time and space to think about, oh, what's the purpose of my life? Yeah, what are my spiritual values? My parents couldn't think about that. It was not interesting. They were trying to stay alive. Okay, so that's, another example of how you take something that you learn about in the Dharma, and it's not just intellectual, but you can see how it fits into your life, and it actually explains things about why you are the way you are, okay, what your previous conditioning was. And it also makes us see that some of our previous conditioning may not have been so good, and when we were kids, we just listened to what the adults around us say, and we accepted it because that's all we heard, and because we loved our parents and we loved those adults. But now, as we're adults, we should look back and really analyze those things. And are they true or are they not true? Yeah. So especially the political ideas, the race ideas, all these kinds of non-inclusive of other sentient beings ideas, we should think about, oh, I learned those things in the past. What do I really believe now? And what do I believe because of my own investigation, not because I just heard it from other people? Yeah. And so that opens the door really in our own minds to challenge ourselves and ask ourselves, why do I think what I think? And is what I think actually something virtuous, or have I actually adopted values that are harmful? Simply because as a child, you get conditioned by the people around you and you have no ability to assess it on your own because you're a kid, but now we're adults. We can think on our own and assess it. Okay. So that's another example of how to take something that is taught to you on a quote, quote, intellectual level and really use it in your own spiritual practice. That easiest way, and maybe the most pronounced way in Buddhism to convert intellectual knowledge into practice, excuse me, just a second. Is through the mind training teachings or thought transformation teachings. Yeah. So these are teachings. They the verses in these texts are very short and very pithy, but because they're short and really to the point, it doesn't mean they're easy. Okay. For example, these teachings talk a lot about how to transform adversity into the path. Okay. And we all have adversity in our lives. How do we transform that adversity into our spiritual practice when our usual habitual way of dealing with adversity, okay, is to feel it's unfair and I'm not being treated properly, okay, and we're angry back when we have adversity. If a person is insulting us, we're angry. If we're sick, we're angry, okay. If something is too difficult and we aren't able to succeed, we're angry. Okay. But anger doesn't help us. Anger is a non-virtuous attitude. What do we do when we're angry? Yeah, we can't sit there and suppress it and say, I shouldn't be angry. I'm not supposed to be angry. I want to be a good Buddhist. I'm not angry. I am not angry. I am not angry. I am not angry. I can't wait to slug that person. Oh, I'm not angry. You know, that's not the way to deal with your anger. It doesn't work. Okay. We have to find another way to look at the situation. So this is where the Buddha and the whole lineage of teachers, how they are spectacular in my perspective. And these are the teachings personally that I feel really help me the most. Yeah. To at least try and be a sane human being instead of an irascible, angry, depressed human being, you know? And so the Buddha taught, oh, okay, when you have adversity, yeah, one way to not get angry about it is to think, oh, this is a result of my own non-virtuous actions created either earlier this life or in previous lives. Yeah, why am I getting criticized? Because in the past, I have criticized other people. Oh, I have criticized other people. Have any of you criticized other people? Okay, a couple of people are fessing up. A couple of people are looking off like, who, me? I'm not gonna admit that I've criticized other people. Yeah. The people who try to escape being honest with themselves and being transparent probably have criticized others the most. Okay. But in any case, you know, oh, I'm getting criticized. It's because I've criticized others. If I don't like the result of getting criticized, I should stop creating the cause for my criticism. Yeah. If I don't like the result of my actions, I should stop creating the actions, the karma that bring those kind of results. Yeah. Then your mind says, but that person is criticizing me unfairly. I'm getting the criticism from them. It's their fault. No, they just have an uncontrolled mind. They're unhappy and they're taking it out on you. Yeah, really, you know, usually when we're criticized, very often it doesn't have so much with us. What the other person is really saying is, I'm unhappy. But they can't say I'm unhappy because they aren't in touch with what's going on in their heart. So they say, you did this and you did that, and blame us for their unhappiness. But actually what they're trying to say is, I'm unhappy and I want to be happy. So, you know, if we see that, then when other people criticize us, instead of seeing, oh, here's this nasty person who is blaming me for things I didn't do, you see, here's a person who's unhappy. Yeah, unhappy people are objects of compassion, not objects of anger. Right? So instead of being angry at these people, I should realize they're unhappy. Something is bothering them. Yeah, I don't need to get angry and retaliate back. I don't need to trash them behind their back and give them a bad reputation. They're already unhappy. Okay. I can instead wish them well. And I can realize that, if they're blaming me for something that I don't see as myself having done, then I need to go and talk with them and ask them, please explain to me, why you're angry. And then listen, because sometimes people can see our own faults that we can't see in ourselves, and we might learn something beneficial. Yeah. And okay, they may tell us our faults in a loud voice. They may repeat it often in case we have short-term memory loss. But that isn't what's important. If they're saying, oh, you are so self-centered, you're responsible for working together on a team with the rest of us, but you don't show up. Okay, if somebody's saying that to me, then I need to look. And if it's true, then, they're giving me useful information. And then, oh, well, maybe that's why I have problems in work situations, because I'm supposed to be working together with people, but I don't show up for the team. Oh, maybe that's why I have this problem. Okay. So there's so many ways in that situation. You see, okay, why are they criticizing me? Because I've criticized others. So the root thing to fix that is for me to not create the cause for the kind of results I don't want. Secondly, that person is not a horrible person. They're an unhappy person. Yeah. Unhappy people are objects of my compassion. I should wish them well. I do wish they well, because if they weren't unhappy, they wouldn't be acting this way. Third, oh, if they're criticizing me, I should check and see if maybe what they're pointing out is a fault that I have. Because if it is a fault, and I'm always saying that I want to improve myself, then that person telling me my fault is actually helping me to improve myself. I need to listen to them. I need to own my faults, and I need to try and do something about them. Okay. So in any of those three ways that you think, you are not getting mad at the other person. You have no wish for retaliation. You're not holding a grudge. Your mind can still be peaceful. You may have to talk to the person and work out the situation, but you can do that without being angry. Yeah. And that's a real blessing, because when we're angry, we don't communicate very well. And when we're angry, it usually doesn't bring about the kind of results we want. So if we can calm our mind first and communicate without anger, things are going to turn out much better for ourselves and for the other person. Okay. So I've gone over time. Sorry. Yeah, I'm like Rinpoche again, it's supposed to start at a certain time, and I'm late, and it's supposed to end at a certain time, and I go over. I aspire to be more like my teacher in terms of inner qualities, not in terms of times I start and finish. But you start somewhere, don't you?
Mhm.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Thank you so much, Venerable. It was a very, very, very helpful and insightful session, especially all the personal examples you gave, I think really helped. And the topic, especially about self-compassion, I think that's something that people have a lot of confusion about. Me especially, I know it's a very confusing topic, and that just really helped clarify that a lot. Yeah, so thank you so much. I think this was relevant and pertinent to everybody on the session. And we are so grateful you could join us at such an early time over there. I know it's very early for you, and you maybe had to speed up your morning practices to join us. So yeah, we're really, really, really grateful. Thank you. And yeah, there will be a recording being shared on our YouTube channel. I'll just post the link to our YouTube channel here. The recording of the
Okay.
last session is on there as well. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much, Venerable Chodron,
Okay.
for your very precious and practical advice for our daily life. And we hope to see you in Delhi very soon. And we'll
Yeah.
have you at Tushita.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you, Renuka, Tushita. The people whose name is Tushita Delhi. One of them looks like
One of them is
Kabir.
Kabirji. Yeah.
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 So, and everybody else who tuned in, thank you very much. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to share with you something that I personally value a lot, and to share it with people, other people who are interested. So thank you for that opportunity. Okay. And I invite you all to come to Sravasti Abbey and visit us. Yeah, why not? It's just halfway around the world, and I make the flight to India. So, if you come to the States sometime, please come and visit us too. Okay, so
Definitely.
let's do a short dedication. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Thank you again, everybody. Take care.